our logging area, and when we go around, I'll look at some of these buildings, and we take all the small stuff and put it inside, or something that will get destroyed in the wintertime. So we put that inside. And this here's a horse-drawn buzzsaw. That's the old sign from the Collins mill. They've always been owned by the Collins Company as far as I've known.
Okay.
But they that got knocked down years ago, and we don't turn too much stuff down unless we already have too many or they're too...
So donations just come from all the various ranches that are been around town, or
and private people. They may have a piece of equipment in their front yard. This one came out of a backyard just here in town. And
so most of this stuff is all horse-drawn, right? Or cattle-drawn?
Yeah, either way. It's, you know, most of it was horse-drawn around here. This is a 4-horse grader here. And Ernie, who helped us put this together, he actually operated that back in 1936 out of Adel, removing snow. And everything still works on it. You can turn everything, raise the blade, turn the blade, you name it. It all works yet. This buggy here, I don't have a date on it. I really haven't checked the axle. A lot of times they'll stamp the date when it was made on the axle. But this originally came from Half Moon Bay, California, and ended up here. And it was in somebody's yard, and
it's a long ride from Half Moon Bay to here in a buggy.
I do have a buggy, and it's not here. I've got it stored. It was built in 1887, but it's a Surrey. It's a fancy buggy. And it's a Surrey. It was built in 1887. And it was driven from Los Angeles, California to here in 1901.
It's a long ride.
Around here, and I completely restored it.
That is...
I took it down to bare wood and bare metal and reupholstered it, and the whole works. And it's a spreader. This is a dump wagon. This is a belly dump truck of its day. You can see how heavy the wheels are. The width of the wheels is what tells how much a load it's going to carry. But there was a seat up here, and the operator sat here. That was a brake. And you had your material in here, whether it be dirt, rock, or whatever. And you'd pull one of these handles, and it would release this, and it would just dump the stuff out. Then you had to ratchet it up with the other one. So you can see how heavy the chain is. So it'd be tough to ratchet it up. So I tell all the guys that they don't want to let their wives do that for a summer, because they'd whip them one-handed. This here piece, when I came here, I've been doing this, well, I came here 20 years ago, and I've learned so much putting this together.
It's a massive bobsled.
Oh, isn't it? Well, when I came over, bobsled to me was, you know, just a curved piece of plywood that kids jumped on and went down the hill.
Little piece of plastic, find a hill when it snows. And
these we just got donated, these hand-hewn beams, and we've got some more promised to us, so we may end up building something with those. And, but this here, you can see, I rebuild, restore a lot of this stuff. And the only thing that was here was from here down. From here up, I replaced all that.
Okay.
Put it all together. That there is a self-rake reaper, and it's for cutting wheat.
Looks like it could be a death machine quite easily as well.
Well, you see if the operator sits.
If you get a little too close to that thing, and you don't want to lean to the right too much if you're sitting in that seat. This looks like something you'd see in like a Halloween haunted house if you just lean a little bit too much to the right.
Yeah. Well, it's got a transmission on it right here, and this here would cut the wheat, and the wheat would fall on there, and when it got full, they'd engage the transmission, and those combs come down and it just sweep it off.
Okay.
And then they could come back and either pick it up loose, or they could tie it in shocks. And this here was made between 1903 and 1917. It came to Lake County from Idaho in 1917. So, and the company name that's on it bought out the old company in 1903. So we know it's from 1903 to 1970. This is portable hay derrick.
Oh.
When they used to put hay up in the field in the loaves. And that goes up and it'll slide up and down. That whole pole turns. It's got bearings on the bottom and bearings on the top. So you can turn it 100 or 360 degrees. These guy wires are in close. The original guy wires would have went out further in the corners of the fence. Well, down at New Pine Creek, beyond the California side, there was actually a gold rush down there. So it was probably around the 1860s. So a lot of the people that came from the gold rush in California went up what they call high grade. And they got a lot of gold out there. And that piece right back there is a horse-operated winch. And that came from high grade. And that was a piece of equipment they used up there. It's all cast iron. It's just heavier than that. And this is our makeshift mine shaft here, and the operator would stand here and they could engage the winch or the brake on there or disengage it. So, and these rocks here actually came over from the valley in a gold mining area that had been mined out years ago with dredges. This piece here is...
This looks like a millstone.
It is a millstone. The other half was broke, so we didn't get it. But when New Pine Creek had like 3,000 people down there at once, if you can believe that, and they had 3 flour mills down there. There's still one there, but it hasn't worked for years. And this came from England around the Horn and ended up here. This here was a water wagon at one time, and then somebody put an old motor on it and impellers on the inside to keep it stirred up, and they used it for a crop spraying machine.
Oh.
And that was for breaking green horses to pull a wagon.
Oh, okay.
And you can see how it's wore here. They put rocks, anything of weight on there. And they said they'd have a green horse and a broke horse. And they'd start pulling. If the green horse didn't keep pulling, they could pull that brake on right there, and then they had to pull this whole thing dead weight. And said it only took a couple times, and they learned either that or they went back out on the range with a buckaroos, and they got. This here's a potato digger. They raised a lot of potatoes around here at one time, but it finally got to some kind of disease, and if they finally quit raising potatoes here. But this here, there would have been a set of wheels up here, and then this could raise and lower this so it would get underneath the potatoes, and the rocks and the dirt would go up there, and this thing really shakes, and it would just drop it down through there, and the potatoes would drop on the ground. This here is a loose hay loader and a hay wagon, so if you had the hay windrowed out in the field, you could just go right on up with this and it would dump it right on in there. And then you could take it over and offload it either there or take it to the barn or wherever you wanted to go. These two are hay balers, a little different probably than what you've seen. And they were fairly crude. That one's 1891, this one's a little older. And what you did, you took it out, you could take it out to the haystack or you could bring the hay to it. Take the wheels off, and now you're a foot and a half lower to the ground. Hook your horse up here, and the horse would just walk around and around. And there's a ram in here. It'd go back and forth, and it would drop this down, and you could feed your hay in there, and it would just keep compressing it. And these are tapered, so it just kept getting tighter and tighter. When you finally got what you wanted for a bale size, then you drop this down through, and then start your next bale, and they'd run wire through here, through these slats, and hand tie them off. When you go up to Summer Lake, if you go up Highway 31, you'll pass the Harris School.
Okay.
And it's right next to the road. Now this is the Lone Pine School. They tell me it looked exactly like the Harris School. But this was where the kids from Paisley went to school. And this is the bell. That's about the only thing that's left of it. We have a bell, and the Harris School, they have a school. We've got a bell. Fortunately, we've had people from all over the world visit us and take tours. Our first tour was 15 minutes. Now the full-blown tour takes over 3 hours.
Oh.
So when a group of people come in, that's the first thing I'll ask them how much time they've got or how much time they want to spend. The cash register goes up to $2.95 total. That's as much as it'll go. The 3-holer. And there's the signs I put up. So anything of any consequence, I put a sign on it. If it's something really small, I don't put a sign on it. This is a blacksmith shop that we brought down from Valley Falls, and the fella died, and he knew that we were going to get this going, so he donated this to us. We just got the building, everything in here. We ended up with 7 forges and two anvils and all kinds of tools. This is a working blacksmith shop. I make pieces, build pieces, straighten parts on the wagons that have been bent, and all kinds of stuff. So this is actually a working blacksmith shop. We originally got the main barn, and Arlene and my wife and myself and Ernie moved this down here in one piece. And then we added the sides on. We needed more storage and stuff.
You do that on a flatbed truck? How do you get it down in one piece?
It was real interesting. On a standard trailer, it was too high. We would have taken out all the lines coming down here. So I found a guy that had made a trailer real low. The wheels were about this big around, and to move a building or two. So he let us borrow it, and we got that up. It took two weeks to rebuild the bottom. It had set in down in the dirt, and it rotted all the beams in the bottom. So it took us 2 weeks to raise it and rebuild the bottom, and then we put skids underneath it and skidded up on the trailer, and we skidded it off. And then, like I said, we put the sides on it. And I'm already getting things donated already this year, those beams and these shingles. I got a bunch of shingles donated to us. We have enough harness there on the back for 8 horses. We've got our crosscut saws there, collection, all kinds of horse collars. These are all scales here, called a Stilliard scale. That's a log cabin we tore down and brought down here, and I numbered every piece on there, every log. The only thing I didn't number was the shingles on the top, but all the boards in there were all numbered. And we came down and rebuilt it just like it was together. And then my wife and I re-chinked the walls. It took us 2 weeks, 1,700 pounds of cement and sand in those walls with an inch trowel by hand.
Oh, that's a lot of work.
She always thought that she might want a log cabin sometime, but after that, fortunately, she said, no, I don't need one. But anyway, there's a couple saddles in there. This here is an old Lazy Susan table.
Okay.
And that came from the Lloyd Chandler estate also, just like that stove there, and it's in wonderful condition. And then that bed came from Lloyd Chandler's. An old washing machine. This here was a cabin that came off of the MC Ranch. The MC Ranch is out at Adel, and it was quite a large ranch. In this day, it was probably one of the larger ranches or holdings. This was a line cabin where the cowboys would stay if they were fortunate enough when they were away from the ranch to be close to this. They would stay in here. And it's called Joe's Cabin because Joe Jones actually built it in 1926. He worked for the MC Ranch. All the large items in here are original to the cabin. That's a nice big table there, and we've got plates and stuff in there. That was why Ernie was a brand inspector, a guy from Silver Lake made that for him. And these are sheep brands. We used to dip them in paint and charcoal, and then after they sheared the sheep, then they just put a paint mark on them, rather than now they take a spray camera. So now when we tore this down, that stove was original in there. There was a wall board behind there because it's so thin, it gets so hot that they put a wall board back there, and a lot of the cowboys and people that had stayed in this cabin wrote their names on a board. Well, when we got this the door was just hanging and the windows were all broke. And when we took up, there was about a foot of manure, sagebrush, and dirt in this building. So we got that all out, and we found this much of the wallboard that was intact that people had written their names on.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty neat. Anyway, you can't hardly see. I can lift a little of this up. We've got a saddle collection in here. And this here's an old piece here. You may hear a Big Valley. Don Robinson owns it now. But this, I told you about the gold rush. Mm-hmm. In the 1860s, the Robnettes homesteaded Big Valley. And they built a butter churn in the creek. And when you go into the Douglas County, or Lake County Museum, you'll see a butter churn and stuff in there. And that's that butter churn that was in the creek up there. And they have all the stuff to make the butter up. Well, one side of the family took this. And this is the pack saddle, and they put butter in there. You'd take off about 3 o'clock in the morning through the mountains here, and they'd go down through the mountains and sell the butter to the miners, and they'd get back after dark. They'd taken that off. We have Ernie's saddle back here, and that's Ernie's gear there. And we have his wife's saddle down here, and she's passed away, and the family donated her saddle to us. So that was nice. Got a horsehair rope there, right there by the hat, and rawhide riata there. This is here, the gal, it's a sort of a side saddle, but the gal who had that made for her years and years ago, it was a time women didn't ride astride horses, they rode side saddle. So she had that made for her. She could ride side saddle, and she loved to ride bareback. She wouldn't ride a regular saddle. So anyway, she'd ride bareback, and she could use that and ride side saddle. But there's a small boiler. Somebody tried to make it into a steam cleaner.
Unsuccessfully? Unsuccessfully.
Yeah, the guy that donated said they never could get the pressure out of it. So that's why there's an extra firebox on the bottom. This is a Model D John Deere tractor. They started making those in 1923, and the last one they made was 1955. And this one here is a 27. And they were basically the same until after the war, and they put rubber tires on it. And it's the only one that had a horizontal engine in it. It's a 2-cylinder engine. This here's a boiler too. When they brought this in, I thought it was that size. And this came off the MC Ranch. And about 1940, they had some kind of disease scare, and they had to dip all their cattle. So they bought this just to heat the water. They dug a trench in the ground and put water in it, and it ran through here. And they kept a fire going in this 24 hours a day for 7 days. And they dipped over 140,000 cattle. But it's the same firebox that a train of that era would have it. It probably was had a big wheel on the side, so it was probably an engine rather than a tractor or anything. That's the firebox there. And they used to have, when we first got it, you could read their formulas on here, that they had to keep the pressure up so much. This here is what they call a sheep ark, and you may have seen some sheep arks that were round on the top. And if the sheep herder was fortunate enough to have one, this is his RV. And they just pull this out to wherever they were camping, and then they'd live in it. It's got a stove, a bed, you name it, it's got everything. And this one was built out of a regular wagon in 1916. And we've got pictures of it in 1916, and it had the traditional round bows in it. And then during the war, they couldn't get the oak bows anymore to replace them, so they changed it to this configuration in 1942, and we have pictures of it in 1942 also. And then this building here, that was the old concession stand at the high school. And they were trying to get rid of it, and they built that nice new brick building over there, and it was perfect. So we used this as our visitor center and also for storage. And it didn't have windows in it when we got it, so we got some windows and got it all painted up. And here's some of the stuff that goes with that sheep art. And matter of fact, if you just step around here, you can see it in 1916, and then you can see it in 1942.
Oh,
That's
wow.
that same sheep art.
Yeah.
And well, I'll put this in. We also do oral history. We haven't done, my wife does for the Historical Society, we do books like this. You might see those in the library or something, but there's Don, and that's Ray's dad, and that's the sheep ark in its finer day.